Hello, hello, hello. I don't know what just happened. I'm having some technical difficulties here. And I think here we go. I'm having some technical difficulties here this fantastic Monday. Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. It is June 17th already. I hope you all are having a fantastic day. I was not live last Monday. I had an injury to my foot, and so my mouth isn't broken clearly, but I was in a lot of pain and discomfort, and so decided not to come on live. I have a sprained tendon, and when I tell you that that thing hurts really, really badly, it hurts badly. So yeah, that's why I wasn't live on Monday. So, these things happen. Life happens. So, welcome. Thank you for taking the time to join today and to share in this time with me. I appreciate you taking the time out because I know you have a tight schedule. So, that's why I keep this live to 30 minutes. And today I want to talk about specifically about uh, data. My focus is data, period. And this live, generally, I speak about use articles that support the use of data and look at articles to discuss how data is being used and how it relates to specifically urban education. But for the next couple of weeks, what I'm going to do is not so much use an article, but really talk about how you as a school leader can support your staff incrementally in removing the fear around learning how to use data in your building and multiple streams of data, not just assessments, right? There's data all throughout your building. And so my name is Dr. D, if or Dr. Demia, if some of you first time watching this or joining in. And I've been in urban education for decades. And my goal, my passion is to empower urban school leaders to lead with confidence so that they can transform the instructional culture and feel affirmed in the work that you do. It's really important for me because I'm a product of urban education. And so that's where my passion and my focus lies because I believe in shifting schools one school leader at a time. And so I also believe that we have the power to create this shift and this change that is needed for our most marginalized students like myself, like I was, right? And so I say this quote very often about having the conversation that matters, Margaret Wheatley, a quote by Margaret Wheatley. But I also like to add in that being courageous enough to create the disruption that is needed to change the current conditions for our most marginalized kids. And so that's what this conversation is steeped in. And today, specifically, 2 weeks ago, I talked about part one, which is embracing the fear, right? When there is fear, then there is growth. So that is a beautiful thing. Today, I want to talk about, this idea of how do you support your staff in understanding and learning about data more. And I want to share a little story with you, just to kind of ground us in this conversation. And so this is a picture of me early on in my school leader years at a school where the staff historically did not use data for anything at all. And even with all of my encouraging and conversations, and I had to figure out something drastic because staff were still very apprehensive about using data. Um, and so this is what I mean about being courageous enough and doing things in a radical sense that really create the shift that is needed for true change to occur. And so this is me on a Saturday going into the building, after having months of conversations with staff around data and them not, um, I don't want to say adhering, but just not conforming to what needed to occur. And I truly believe it was because of fear out of anything else, right? And so I had to do something to really push this shift. And so this is me in the school on a Saturday, and what you see are color coded index cards for our third through fifth graders for the state test, right, from the year prior. And so the purple was advanced, the green was meeting the state assessments. Yellow was basic, and then there were they were color coded. Now there were no student names here; there were only numbers, right? So nobody knew which student was which. So, but what was on that board were teacher names. There were teacher names and the grade levels, and that sparked the conversation. And mind you, this bulletin board wasn't even there. I had that bulletin board purchased and put in the main lobby. To the left of that picture is actually the school's main office. And so when you walk into the building, bam, that's the first thing that you see by the main office. And so naturally, when you see teachers' names up there, people are going to look at it. It became a center focus for, it started the conversation that was needed. It started staff to, it initiated this fire in staff to kind of be like, oh wow, when I look at it on the grand scheme of things, and I look at where my students are, I have a lot of work to do, right? Teachers started to own what they saw on this bulletin board. And it created conversations. It shifted the conversations toward, how do we fix this? How do we, make this shift that's needed so that our students can meet this goal, right? And the school was 100% Title I, free and reduced lunch, and 98% Black and Latino. So, yeah, when you talk about doing something like a shift that's really needed to get people moving after months of having conversations with staff, I figured that this was the only way, which was for them to actually see it. Right now, this wasn't a surprise for them. They knew that it was coming. I told them that I was going to post up our school's data, because as a public school, our school, the information is public, right? And so let's share it. That created the shift that was needed. And so my question for you is, how confident are you? Like, how confident do you feel in using data to make these types of decisions, right? I knew, based on the data I collected from the initiatives that were put in place, that staff were not adhering to it, and I didn't want to write staff up, right? I mean, we already have issues with retention, and I knew that this apprehension was coming from a place of fear, and so now this created the conversation that was needed. So my question for you is, how confident do you feel in using data to make these kinds of educational decisions? So drop how you're feeling about that in the chat, and let me know how you're feeling about that. And let's continue this conversation, because it's really important for us to highlight the understanding data for our students and for our staff, right? Because when you think about your staff, they want to be successful in the work that they're doing. They inherently do want to be successful. And if you have staff who don't want to be successful, then that's another conversation, right? But originally, when you think about education, you think about people who are in education. We are in education because we want to do good by kids. And so your role as a school leader is to tap into that energy, to reignite that passion that educators have for doing the work that they do. And so the power in data here is that when you see it in this way, it is magnified for you, where you're looking as a teacher, when you think about it, as teachers are looking at their grade books and looking at things, they don't see it on a like a big picture, a holistic view. But when you actually extrapolate the data and put it in a way where everybody can see what it looks like in a snapshot, you get a clearer picture of what is needed, right? Which teachers need support. And you can see just from looking at this that most of the purple cards, right? Like, this is a snapshot. Most of the purple cards are in third grade. And as you go from the columns from third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, and including special education, you can see that the scheme of colors change from purple. There's less purple, then there's less green and more yellow, right? Indicating that as students move along in the grades, in the intermediate grades, that they lose proficiency. Okay. which is something that we know has happened repeatedly when we look at state assessments. And so, but looking at this as a snapshot sparked the conversation that was needed. So, another question I have for you is, what changes, like thinking about your school, especially now in the summer, this is the optimal time to start thinking about what you as a school leader can begin to do and plan for staff to break the fear that they have around data. What are some things that you can do as a school leader to help them understand the importance of using data and it becoming second nature to them, right? The beauty in that is profound. So, my question for you now is, what changes could you make in your school if you had a deeper understanding of the data, of your data, right? Because a lot of times, and I've worked with many school leaders who are overwhelmed with the amount of data that they have, that it paralyzes them, that they cannot see what the next step is because there is so much data. So take a second and think about what changes you can make as a school leader in your school if you had a deeper understanding of your data. What are some simple things or some steps? Because nothing is simple about this, right? What are some steps that you can take to help you get a deeper understanding of your data? For me, it was putting up a bulletin board in the lobby, like you see, so that I can get a snapshot and my staff can get a snapshot of what we are seeing. Because I saw the snapshot on paper, but I couldn't get my staff to see it until I put this board up, right? Now, I'm not saying you have to do something like this, but I'm definitely saying that the data in your building should be public knowledge, right? Because anyone can look up your school's data on the state website, but having it publicly in the building creates a different type of conversation. And so share your thoughts. Like, what are you thinking? What are some of your experiences with data, with trying to get your staff to understand data and to use it um, on a real deep level and in a real meaningful way, right? And I will say that after putting up this board, it was updated very frequently, and the conversations in the collaborative planning meetings shifted to where it needed to be, right? Where now staff were asking, well, how many students in your class have not met this learning standard? And what are some of the challenges that we're seeing, right? And this bulletin board came up right before we were trained in the data cycle process, which the timing, like the actual timing of it was perfect because now staff was already used to, or like getting used to the idea of data and talking about it in different ways at collaborative planning meetings. And then we had the structure for the conversation, which just really set us in a great direction for moving kids and moving our school the way we needed to, and we really had significant growth as a school with our data. So share some things that you have either thought of or have done as it relates to data in your school, right? And how you can support your staff, because this part two of the 5-part series is really about how you as a school leader are supporting your staff in this process. Okay, what steps can you take to help get them understand, one, the importance of data, right? And two, how to start looking at it in a way that it tells a story about the students in their classrooms and then overall the students in your school, because data tells a story. Okay. It's a beautiful thing when everyone starts talking about it. So there are many resources to help get you started with understanding how to use data. One, me, I'm your primary resource. So reach out to me, contact@drivenllc.com, or hit me, direct message me on any platform that you are watching this from. And we can have further conversations so I can get a better understanding. I also have some leadership audits that I can conduct with you for free to kind of understand where you are in your understanding and use of data in your building, right? So the leadership audits are complimentary. So hit me at contact@drivenllc.com if interested. Moving right along, there are some other resources that are out there. I know there is a couple of books. One, Driven by Data, is a really good book to use. And I often refer to that book as well and did very frequently as a principal and found it to be very, very useful. It's called Driven by Data by Paul Bumbrick Santoyo. Okay. Um, Excellent book to use. There are lots of other resources that you can use, but if you have any questions, just reach out to me because the idea is that you want to chunk this information for your own learning and your staff, right? And what I've come to find is that school leaders very frequently will have a fear around the data because they don't understand it because it's just so much, right? And like this idea of it being paralyzing. Um, so I want to show you something else here so that you can get an idea of just like what, when we're talking about data exactly, what are we talking about? What are some of the things like is this data coming from? So when I'm speaking about data right now, I'm specifically speaking about tier one, right? And so you as a school leader understand the three tiers, right? Because we have this MTSS structure, which is the multi-tiered structure to address students at different varying levels of need, right? And so tier one is your general instruction. That's instruction that every single student in your building gets, right? And so this is the data that I am referring to when I'm speaking about data. And so for you to get a better understanding of what type of data that is, I want you to take a look at this diagram here. So when we're looking at student work, which is right here in the kind of bluish purple, not purple, sorry, the aqua blue color called student work. There are multiple, this is not all of the, this does not encompass the entire list, but these are the ones that are really important to lift up because they give you the biggest bang for your buck, right? So in terms of student work, are you using a student work protocol? That's a source of data when you're meeting in your collaborative meetings. I just had received some information from a principal I'm working with this year, and this entire year, when I had a conversation with her, we had to narrow down what piece of data that we wanted to use for the school year, right? What is the one thing that we wanted to focus on and do really, really well at that? Because it's about depth, right? And not breadth. So, what do we want to go deep on with her and her staff so that they can really like take the reins and run with it once it's like this well-oiled machine? And instead of doing the data cycle and all those other pieces, they decided to one, structure their collaborative meetings to make them 90 minutes, and also use the looking at student work protocol all year long. This has such a profound impact on teachers' ability to understand the learning standards, understand what they know and don't know, understand what students know and don't know, and school leaders to understand what teachers know and don't know, which is really amazing. And based on the results from their assessments right now, they had double-digit growth from simply understand, like taking the time to understand student work based on the learning standards. Amazing growth. Super proud of that principal and her school. Another piece of tier one data for student work is the student data conferences. Do you have student data conferences at your school? How often do you have them? Are there goals being set? Are your students engaged in goal setting? And I've seen this happen with kindergartners. It is absolutely possible. And when done, it has such an amazing impact on students in the way and in terms of their mindset and how they begin to believe what they can do in school. Student portfolios is another tier 1 data source. Everyone should be creating a student portfolio to kind of take a look at their work, the trajectory of the school year, right? And things that they can share with their family when they come up for these student-led conferences or parent-teacher conferences. At this point, you should be having student-led conferences, but that's another whole conversation. Another piece of tier 1 data is the data cycle, summative assessments, formative assessments, benchmarks. We won't get into that. Feedback loops is another piece, right? And this is for you as a school leader in terms of the instructional focus, the timely goal set, and the student impact. What's really critical here is the progress monitoring. All three of these have to be progress monitored. All three. Today, in terms of is this self-guided learning journey that you should be on. So my task for you is to look up a student. I need you to look up the Looking at Student Work Protocol. Look it up, read it, watch some videos on it, get some insight on how you can begin to introduce this process to your staff, because it has such an amazing impact, right? And it's something that once you initiate it and you monitor it, right? You monitor the student work, which is this column here. Once you monitor it and you see and you're giving feedback and engaging in it, because you're not just standing in the room as a school leader, you are fully engaged in the process with your staff to show them that you are walking arm in arm with them and through this discomfort and this fear of data, right? Because that's where the true learning occurs. And so I challenge you to look up a Looking at Student Work Protocol. Read it, watch some videos, share some thoughts in the comments once you look it up, and tell me your thoughts around, like, do you think that this is something your staff would engage in? Do you think that they would receive this well? What are some steps that you can take to kind of chunk it? Would you be able to do it maybe with a specific grade level first, just to try it out, work out the kinks before you introduce it to the rest of the staff? What are some pieces that may make you a little apprehensive about this Looking at Student Work Protocol? That is a part of the self-learning journey that you need to be on as a school leader, right? Is you're not waiting for anyone else, like someone from the district, to come in and tell you what to do. You know what the challenges are in your building, right? You have a plethora of data in your building to tell you what those challenges are. And so now you need to do this self-guided learning journey. And so I challenge you to look up a Looking at Student Work Protocol. That's it. I'm not going to ask you to look up anything else in this column, right? Because it's about chunking the information to make sure that you can really and truly digest it in a way that makes sense for you. And so that you have enough knowledge of it so that you can now impart this knowledge to your staff. And so let's set some realistic goals this summer around what it is you want your building to look, sound, and feel like when staff return in regard to data. What is one thing that you can begin to introduce to your staff in regard to data, and how you will support them in that? So this requires you as a school leader to actually do some digging and some research, right? And so just keep in mind, like, data is not just about numbers. It tells a story of your students, of your school, and the potential, right, to create real change when you're looking at data. So let's commit to understanding this, like, the story of your data better this summer. What are some pieces of data that you're going to pull up and look at, put on a big screen, maybe, redo it in a way where you can actually see a picture very similar to the one that I showed you, because that told the story that was clear. Even though that data was written somewhere else in a spreadsheet, you can't really see it that way until You have to create the story that you want your staff to see. Okay. And make it public. And every single time someone's coming to a staff is coming to talk to you, you are asking them, what does the data say? How do you know? Right? There is no, oh, well, I think. No, where's the evidence of that? What do the numbers say? How can you tell that it's going this way? How can you tell that a student needs support with this? How can you tell? Like, once you continue to ask them the questions that push them to think about what data is and how I know what the data is, because it's telling me this specific story, they will get used to that process, and you are actually grooming them to become like grooming their data lens. So I challenge you to, one, look up the looking at student work protocol, check out some videos, share your thoughts in the comments below. Um, and then two, to actually think about the data pieces that you have that you will look at this summer and decide how will you begin to chunk the practice of data analysis with your staff. Okay. I'm here I'm here to help you in any way. So please feel free to reach out to me, send me a message, a direct message me. And I also have, like I said, the leadership audits, which are free. And so schedule some time to talk through that so we can figure out which piece, because there are three pieces within the audit that I work on. And we can figure out which one of those three pieces are the ones that would give you the biggest bang for your buck as a school leader. Okay. And so, keep going. This is the summer, time for you to rejuvenate, but also a time for you to plan strategically. So let's get those wheels a churning, because I know a lot of people think that the summer is relaxation, but as a school leader, this is one of the busiest times for you. So while you're having a glass of wine on your deck or on your terrace or wherever, or whatever libation you would choose, um, think about how you would introduce data to your staff. Okay. And I need you to keep going. We need you. That's all I got for now. Um, so implement some of these challenges and share your thoughts in the comments. And I will catch you next week for part 3, in the next episode of What Are Your Thoughts? Have a great day.